What is it really like to have an auditory processing disorder? We hear a lot of terms thrown around: ADHD, APD, dyslexia. But if you're the student in the classroom or the adult at work trying to get the job done, what does that look like for you? Today, you get to hear from a delightful high school student who lives with APD, auditory processing disorder. She's going to share what it's like and how to help your child advocate for what they need. This is LD Expert Live. Welcome to LD Expert Live, your place for answers and solutions for learning differences, dyslexia, and attention challenges. I'm your host, Jill Stowell, founder of Stowell Learning Centers and author of At Wit's End, A Parent's Guide to Ending the Struggle, Tears, and Turmoil of Learning Disabilities. This book will help you understand why some bright children and teens struggle in school and what can be done to change that permanently. To get a free copy, go to parentsatwitsend.com. Let's say hello to Lauren, our moderator and the Director of Clinical Growth and Operations at Stowell Learning Centers. Good morning, Lauren.
Hello. Hello to everyone who is watching us live. Let us know that you're here and where you're checking in from. We'll take your questions and comments for Adalyn and for Jill on auditory processing today. So be sure to post your questions or comments in the chat. And one of the topics we're going to talk about today is advocating for your child. And I know we have some really proactive parents in our audience. Post in the chat any advice you have for other parents about helping a teacher understand your child's needs. A resource we have for you is our Mom Squad. That is a private Facebook group for you parents. It's a private community of parents with kids and teens with learning and attention challenges. You can request to join by going to our Facebook page and clicking the link, or by going to Facebook groups and searching the keywords SLC Mom Squad. We post resources. You can get advice from the community. And I also have some guides related to different learning challenges, including auditory processing. So we already have some people checking in. We have Rachel checking in from New York. Welcome. Hello. And we have Karen checking in from Sacramento. Hello. Welcome. Again, remember, put your advice for advocating for your child in the chat, and we'll check back in a little bit.
Great. Thank you, Lauren. If you're just joining us, this is LD Expert Live. I'm your host, Jill Stowell. Our guest today is Adalyn Smith. Adalyn is a junior in high school. She learned she had auditory processing disorder, or APD, when she was 8, and has been learning how to advocate for herself since then. Now she advocates for others and is on a mission to educate the public about this invisible learning challenge. Welcome, Adalyn.
Hi.
Hi.
Good to be here.
I'm just so happy to have you on the show.
Thank you.
I met Adalyn when she interviewed me on IGTV. I think I learned more from her than she did from me on that interview. And so I came away thinking, man, this girl is so insightful. I've got to share her with our viewers. So here she is. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Adalyn.
Yeah, of course. I am 17 years old. I'm a junior in high school. I enjoy baking and learning sign language. I make weekly posts for APD and give tips and tricks on how to live with it. And after high school, I plan to go to college and hopefully get my degree in ASL interpreting.
Perfect. That's such a cool thing. I would love to be able to sign. I love to watch it.
It's really cool. I love it.
You know, you knew you had APD from the time you were 8, so pretty young. But I remember you were telling me about an experience you had in 8th grade that really had an impact on you. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I remember I was in 8th grade, like you said, and I had the opportunity to be an aide in a special education class the teacher had us watch a video about different disorders and mental illnesses around the world. One of those was APD, or auditory processing disorder. And, it came up like a light bulb because they started talking about it. One guy did. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not the only person that struggles so hard with this. I'm not the only person that, has to learn how to deal with this disorder and how to advocate for themselves. And it was really cool to see that there are millions of other people that have this and that go through the same challenges that I do on a daily basis. So one thing to know is that you're not alone and that there's other people out there in the world to help you.
Which is a huge thing to understand, that it's not just you.
Yeah. I thought up to this point, until I had this class, I thought I was literally the only person in the world that was struggling with this. And I felt so alone. And so like, where do I turn for help? Who do I turn to? How do I get help? And I felt like hopeless. But then, I watched that video and it was like, oh my gosh, I'm not alone. Like, this is amazing.
Yeah. Wow. I know you're really passionate about educating others about APD, probably, kind of out of that experience. And I love that, because I think education opens up all kinds of doors to understanding and real change.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some of the ways that you are trying to get the word out about auditory processing disorder?
Yeah, so I currently have an Instagram account, and I post weekly posts on it about APD and how to live with it and some things people might not know about it. I also spoke to the University of Maryland a couple of months ago and gave them a basic overview of what APD was and just some tips and tricks, because they're going to become audiologists in the future and I wanted them to have some basic knowledge of APD. I hope to speak to different school districts and the staff and administration there and give them an overview as well of APD, because if they know the signs and symptoms of their kids and if they see the signs and symptoms of APD in their children and their students, then they can advocate for their students and they can get help a lot earlier than I did. And I know if I would have gotten help, then I would have gotten help a lot earlier.
That is amazing what you're doing, I think. Auditory processing is at the root of so many different learning, attention, or social difficulties, but it is kind of hidden. So
Yes.
A lot of times in a classroom, a teacher is going to look and think that the student has ADHD because they look like they're not listening and they're not paying attention. But that could be a direct symptom of APD.
Yeah, it could just be them being exhausted from listening so hard that they just completely tune out and say, I don't even care anymore. I'm too exhausted for this. I'm going to tune out and do something else.
Right.
Which really is APD, and it's not ADHD at all.
Right. And so this is really something that the world needs to know about, because unless you experience it or you deal with it all the time, the way we do at the learning centers, it's just not obvious.
No.
I have to say, I love that you talk to, people who are becoming audiologists, because these are the people that are testing for it.
Exactly.
But it gives them a picture of what it looks like on the other side.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I've been following your Instagram, Adalyn, and you share such good insights and advice. And so to our viewers, I would really encourage you to follow Adalyn on Instagram at Advocate for APD. And if you have teens with auditory issues, I encourage you to have them follow her. She touches on things that they're dealing with that people just don't understand unless they're living with it. And, as you said, it's nice to know that you're not alone.
Yes, for sure. I was talking when I spoke at the University of Maryland, they told me beforehand that they learn APD from books and textbooks in their research, but living with it is a completely different thing. Yes, you hear about the exhaustion, but like living with it is it's so different.
Well, so let's talk about that a little bit. What is it like to be a student with APD? How do you feel like it's different for you than other students?
Yeah, you definitely, you feel kind of different. Because so when you grow up, right, your parents tell you all the time, you can do anything, you can be anything, go out in the world, take all those opportunities, grab onto everything you possibly can. And that's what I did. I tried everything I could, lots of different things. And then when I got my diagnosis, it was like an automatic, like, oh, like I have limitations. I have things I cannot do physically. And I have these things that I have to overcome in order to keep going on with my life and succeed. I remember just being, as soon as I heard that and I got diagnosed, I was almost like shut down in a way, because it was like I was a stereotype, and I was like, I was immediately put into the statistic of being slow and a slow learner and dumb and stupid and not trying hard enough. All these negative things were like poured on me. And, you know, once you hear those things, I mean, like, who wants to come back up to the top, right? It's hard to get back up there. And you feel slow, and it's a hard road.
So learning about the diagnosis, because you've really studied this.
Yes.
That seems like it's really helped you to understand it better, understand yourself.
Yeah.
And so in class, it's going to be a lot more difficult to listen to a lecture and get it all. What do you do?
Yeah, it's definitely a very hard challenge. There's lots of challenges in the classroom. For example, one is lectures. When I'm in the classroom, I'm listening to a lecture, it's hard for me to listen to a fact and then process that in my brain and then write it down. What makes it even harder is when I have to, listen to the fact and then I go down. And one thing I really rely on is lip reading. So when I go down to take my note, I can't see the professor's lips anymore. So that is one communication blocker for me. So whenever how do I say this right? So like the flow doesn't work correctly because I have to take the notes and then I keep going back up and down and it gets messed up and I can't process everything. And there's side conversations going on and it gets into a lot. So that's one challenge I have.
And then your notes when you get home are probably not going to be accurate because there are holes there. You're going to have to connect the dots kind of.
I mean, everyone else's notes was always organized and mine was like random fact there, random note there. And just like, it's so unorganized and they're kind of everywhere. And so when you get home, you're like, wait, what did I learn in class again? Like, I don't know how to solve this math equation because I was so focused on listening to the teacher and just trying so hard to get that information in.
So you said some really important things there. Just the fact that, first of all, you said your notes were really disorganized. And so, as a parent or a teacher, we could easily look at that and say, oh, well, she's not organized. She needs to learn how to take notes, which, you definitely want to have that skill. But that may not be the root of the problem. It may not be a lack of organization. It may be that you're not getting all the information, so you can't organize it because it doesn't make enough sense.
Yeah, I remember I had some tutor in elementary school where she would take me out of class and we would just work on note taking. And I hated that because then I missed more information in the class and then I had to go back after and I was like, can we not do this in class? Like I need to get the information in class and do note taking later. So that was difficult as well. Another challenge I have is working in groups because, you get to your group and literally everyone is talking. There are so many conversations going on at the same time that I can't hear anything. And so when I was in elementary school, I remember taking charge and saying, okay, you're going to do this. You're going to do that. This person's going to do this. And then we're all going to come together. And they took that as controlling. And I was like, I'm sorry. Like I didn't mean to come across controlling. I can't hear anything. And I got so much anxiety in me and so much stress that I felt like I had to take control. Otherwise, nothing was going to get done. And then we would look like a bad presentation group.
Wow. That's such amazing insights.
Thank
You
you.
know, you mentioned the fact that you're working so hard in class to block the noise, to focus in, to get all the information, that you're just exhausted. So then when you get home, you know, and you have to do homework, what is that like at that point?
Yeah, I remember so many afternoons coming home and just being like, my brain was complete mush. Like there was nothing I could do to get it back up to where it wasn't mush anymore. I would come home and I would just like take a 2-hour nap because I couldn't handle doing anything else. And I just needed a break from constant stimulus coming into my life and my ears. And it was too much. So I just said to myself, I need a break right now. And I can't be successful in any other task right now. So I need to take a break and take some time to just be in complete quietness. And that helped a lot.
Which is a huge thing to understand about yourself. I mean, that's amazing. It's hard, you know, as a parent at first, if you don't realize what's going on with your child, and then it's like, okay, what is going on? Are they avoiding homework? Are they just lazy? Again, you know, I just so appreciate the insights that you're giving us.
Thank you.
And I want to say this thing about the exhaustion, that is really important. I mean, the fact that listening is so exhausting for individuals with auditory processing difficulties. Most of you watching have probably been in a situation where were trying to have a conversation with someone pre-COVID in a crowded or very noisy restaurant. It's really hard. You probably missed a lot of information. Maybe you acted like you knew what was going on at times when you didn't. And when you left the restaurant, you were probably exhausted. You may even have decided to leave early. So now imagine having to put that kind of effort into listening at school all day long. If you have a child who falls apart or just wants to sleep when they get home, they're probably mentally exhausted. So, Adalyn, over the years, you and your mom have been very proactive about talking to your teachers about APD and your needs in class. How did you learn to advocate for yourself? And what do you say?
Good question. Me and my mom, I remember in elementary school, mostly, my mom and I would go in to each one of my teachers every single year, and I would give them a short snippet of what I was confident and comfortable telling them about APD. And then my mom would come in and she would fill in the missing answers and give more clarification if teachers needed it. This continued into middle school and high school. She would come in again for middle school, and it was mostly me talking at this point, just about what the situation would look like with me with APD and how I was going to overcome challenges in the classroom. And then in high school, it got to the point where it was like second nature talking to teachers about this because I had been doing it for so long. I simply would go in there and have a casual conversation and say, this is what my APD is going to look like in your classroom. It's going to look different for your students in different situations. For example, if they have a PE class or some type of physical exercise class, they're going to have a hard time when the kids are all running around, for example, playing soccer, and the teacher yells, okay, 5 more minutes left. They're not going to hear that because they're in this jumble of mess of constant noise coming into their ears, and they're not going to be able to hear that. But for math class, it's going to be a lot different because you're in a more condensed space and you have more noise coming into your ears than you would on a dispersed playing field. So it's going to look different for every single class, and you need to let your teachers know what it's going to look like for you and what your specific challenges are.
You know, that's really great language to say, I have APD, here's what that means, here's what it's going to look like in your class.
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. And I also just want to, shout out to your mom for, the process that she took you through. That's incredibly empowering to learn together with your child about what the issue is, and then to give your child from a young age some language to talk to the teacher and let them do it, and then be there to fill in the gaps. That's just a tremendous model, and a gift to you to be able to do that now in high school, because in high school, definitely teachers don't want parents coming in and pinch hitting for their kids. They want the kids to do it themselves. So,
and one thing is that has helped me every single time since I was a little child, and we had to go into the doctors for some random reason, or the dentist, or whatever it was, to make an appointment. My mom would make me make my own appointments, and she would make me call in and talk through the process. And yes, there were terms I didn't understand, and yes, there was things I was like, Mom, what do I say? What do I say to this? I don't know what they're saying. Help me right now. I need help. I'm panicking. But if you start that when you're younger and you start making those phone calls and those bigger communication steps in your life, it's going to be night and day when you have to start doing it in high school and college. You're going to feel so much more comfortable. So my advice for you is start now. Start making those appointments. Have your mom by your side. She's there to help you. She's always there. And don't feel like you have to do it alone, because you don't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's great. So let me ask you, when you talk to teachers, how is it received?
Sometimes it's actually all the time, it's a mixed reaction. Some teachers are super accommodating and they immediately know my struggles and they've seen them in class. And sometimes it's like, what? You have a disability? Who cares? Like, you're going to be fine. Like, we're just going to put you in with the other people in the group. You're going to be fine. Just do the normal stuff. You're great.
Because you look like you're going to be fine.
Yes, exactly. Because you can't see me, I mean, like, you can see me, but you can't see the hidden disability. You can't see my APD,
right?
But you can see it through my actions and through how I look at people and how I go through a class. And I've had teachers where I go in and they immediately know what I'm talking about, and they'll see it on their first day. Like, if they don't understand you on the first day, they're going to see it the second day and the third day and every single day on from then. And it's been nice because once they see my hidden disability, they say, oh, how can I help you? What can I do to help you succeed in my class so that you don't fall behind and you don't have that much anxiety every day? And then there's the teachers that are like, no, like, I'm not going to help you. Like, you're going to be fine. And it's frustrating because, yes, you can't see my hidden disability, but it's there. And it's just, you have to get used to different teachers and the way they work.
Right. And that's how the world is. So we do have to get used to that.
Yeah.
But at least you're going out and asking, taking the step. So that's really great. How do you feel about it? Does it feel empowering? Does it feel embarrassing?
There's been some occasions where, I guess I'll start like this. It was really, really scary for me to go in when I was this cute little fifth grader, super small and tiny in elementary school, and say, hi, my name's Adalyn, I have APD, to this big authoritative teacher that has so much more power and so much more responsibility than I did at the time. And I was like, are they even going to want to listen to me? Like, are they even going to want to pay attention to me and know that I have APD and understand it and see what they can do to help me? And then, so that was really hard. And then when I got to middle school, it got a little bit easier because, I learned how to talk to teachers better. And I learned that I have a role in school and I have to talk to them in order to succeed. And I think at the end of the day, you have to respect yourself and love yourself enough to say, you deserve and I deserve to have the same testing environments and to have the same environment to learn in. And in order for me to have the same learning environment, I need you to understand this and I need you to accommodate for me. So it was definitely hard at first because I was like, I don't want to talk to this big authoritative figure. Like, that's terrifying. I will never do that again. But once I got older, it became so casual and so much easier.
The practice of it really helps,
Yes.
but also learning to say, I have a role.
Mm-hmm.
Not only do I have a role, and I deserve to learn too. Good
Yes.
for you. It's great.
Thank you.
So what are some of the accommodations that you have found helpful?
So I currently have a 504 plan,
Mhm.
and which, if you don't know what that is, it's under a federal law, and it gives the child in the classroom accommodation so that they can come up to the same playing field as other students are, so they can have the same learning environment. So in my 504 and my accommodations in that, I have prepared notes, like I said earlier, because I can't listen to a lecture and take notes at the same time. It doesn't work. It's too fast, and there's too many things happening for me to process information quickly enough. Another one is at the beginning of the year, when I'm telling my teachers about my APD, I have to say, hey, I'm going to need to sit in the front of the class. Please write it down on your sitting chart so you remember I have to be in the front of the class so I can read your lips and your body language and get all this information in. Another one is more time on tests. This has happened so many times this year. I've gone out of the classroom and just sat in the hallway and took a test, because I feel like if I, let me see how to say this right. If I am going to my teacher and saying, hey, I have APD, and then they forget about it and we're taking a test the next time, then I have to go up to them and say, I need you to turn off this music because I can't focus. And sometimes it's awkward for me because I feel like I'm taking away testing opportunities from a different student, because I can't focus with background music on. But someone else, that might be the perfect environment for them, is to have that background music on, even if it's just classical music, which doesn't work for me either. So it's hard, but it's worth it in the end. Another accommodation I have is, I think that's all of them, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are there any things that you tried that weren't helpful?
Yes, I had an FM system in 5th grade. So FM system stands for frequency modulation. And basically what it is and what it means is the teacher will wear a little microphone on her shirt, and then I'll wear headphones. And so that way the teacher's voice will go directly from the headphones to the microphone, to the headphones. So I don't have to process out and filter out background noise. But it got to a point where I felt so isolated, and I was like, I can't even have a regular table conversation with my friends anymore. Like, what's the point? Like, I just feel isolated and I feel lonely, and it is awful, and I hated it. And so it got to the point where, I just stopped wearing them, because it was better to not be isolated than to be isolated and be able to talk with my peers and teachers and laugh and have a good time in class, rather than just sitting there and being so stressed all the time.
That's a really interesting observation about that particular accommodation. And I would just say to parents, as you work with your kids and the school on accommodations, it's really important to observe and listen and explore with your children, and especially your adolescents and teens, about how it's working for them. Sometimes they say they don't want to use accommodations, even though it would be helpful. And it's just really important to explore why. Because, if you kind of weigh what you said there, getting better information versus feeling isolated, so you just have to look at the big picture of those accommodations.
Also, on that note, there's been times where I felt so awkward getting accommodations, because you're the slow student, you're the dumb student that needs more help and that always has to come after school and all these things, right? And in one of my science classes, every single class period, it's still awkward for me. My teacher, he knows that I have to have prepared notes, and I've communicated that with him, so now he brings them to me. And oftentimes people around me will be like, what are those? Like, you have notes? Why don't I get notes? Like, I want notes. I don't want to have to work as hard. And I want to explain to them everything that I have to do, but it's too much for a 30-second discussion before class starts. And so advice for everyone who's watching, you don't feel awkward because say like, I just need a little bit of extra help, and like you might need extra help in your other classes, I don't know, but like advocate for yourself and say like, yes, it's going to feel awkward, but it's better to have accommodations than to struggle so much in school and to feel so far behind and to feel so lonely and like nothing's working than not.
Absolutely. And what's hard for our kids to understand is that if they can confidently say, hey, I just need a little extra help, everybody else will quit thinking about it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
So I feel like you have gotten to that point, and so that's great. If you're just joining us, this is LD Expert Live. I'm Jill Stowell, founder of Stowell Learning Centers, and my guest today is APD advocate Adalyn Smith. We're going to take a few minutes to check in with our viewers, and then Adalyn has some great advice for teens.
Hello, we have some viewers checking in. We have Susan from Tustin, California. Hello, and thank you for joining us. We have Crystal from Garland, Texas. Welcome. And Kara from Sacramento. Oh, Kara, you're going to be joining us in June for a week, coming down for an intensive week with your son. Welcome. Looking forward to that. We have Laura. She says, hi, Adalyn. And then further down, she says that my daughter has APD and we met Adalyn online and love her Instagram page. Love that she is spreading awareness. So you have fans checking in. Shelly says, thank you. Our daughter wasn't diagnosed until 9th grade. Imagine her struggle as you were describing your own.
Yes.
Yeah. And Adelina is saying this is amazing and so inspiring. So thank you for sharing your journey. In response to our question about our parents that had to advocate for their kids, I got a response in Mom Squad from a mom who calls herself a recovering helicopter mom. And so I'll paraphrase because it's quite long. She's been on a real journey with her son. But basically, she said that in elementary school and middle school, every single year at the beginning of the school year, as soon as they found out who her son's teachers were, she'd email the IEP team or the team of teachers and just kind of list out her son's challenges, just to also describe him and his strengths. And, so that they weren't always focused on just what the IEP said. So she did that. And now he's in 9th grade. He's a freshman in high school. And now she's trying to get him to start to do that. But this year in high school, and she's saying, not a traditional year because of hybrid learning, he's pretty embarrassed. So he's not wanting to shine extra light on himself. He's trying to blend in. It's that age. And so she's just asking for some advice on how to deal with that. Like just, a lot of teenagers do not want to put their hand up and be like, I'm different. But she realizes that she can't be the one advocating for him in high school. So any advice on how to go about that for teens, because it is an awkward time. They don't want to say, hey, there's something wrong with me, but she's really seeing this as being a life skill for him and hoping that he'll be able to carry that with him into college.
Yeah, so I definitely have felt what your son is feeling on so many levels. I understand you completely 100%. It is very awkward to go out there and, whenever you have this new person in your life, whether that's a new teacher for your son or a new friend or whoever, it's going to be a new boss sometime in the future, maybe, it's going to be awkward. And it's weird to go up to a person and say, hi, my name is so-and-so. Guess what? I have this disorder. And guess what? Now you have to accommodate me. It's so awkward. It's so awkward. Like, I can't stress that enough. It's so weird. And because normally you don't have to say that because people don't have that sometimes. And I've had that where I'm like, what if I meet someone new and I have a casual conversation with them and I don't say that I have APD or ADHD, dyslexia, whatever it is you have? What if I don't say that? Then I automatically am not this disabled person, and I'm not this person with a disorder that struggles so hard. And they don't ever have to know that. All they know about me is I'm a girl and I'm just living my life, So it is going to be awkward when you when your son meets new people and he has to advocate for himself, just know, like I said before, that if he starts like, how do I say this right? If he starts doing the small and simple things right now, for example, calling into those doctor's appointments or going in before and after school to get help on math worksheets or whatever it is, it's going to get easier. It's not always going to be awkward. It is not always going to feel weird. It will get better and it's going to get easier. I promise you that.
And
Great advice.
She said something really important there. She said, start with something small and simple, someone really safe that you can say, hey, I need a little help with this. Or it doesn't have to be a big, huge thing, but start with something small. If your son needs to sit in the front of the class, maybe that's it. It's not everything. It's just, hey, I really need to sit in the front of the class so that I can really pay attention to you while you're speaking. That might be a start, just to be able to say that or to email that, something like that.
And once he gets comfortable with talking in front of people about it and going to his teachers and saying, hey, I have this stuff. I remember when I was younger, whenever my mom's friends would come over, there'd be a lot going on, a lot of noise, lots of things happening. And it was helpful for me because I could say, hey, I have APD. And I was comfortable with saying that because I had gone to teachers before and because I had communicated with them. So it was easier for me to talk to adults and higher authoritative figures, because that's part of the awkward part is you're talking to these people that you have no idea who are, and you're like, wow, you have a lot more responsibility than I do. So yeah, once you get comfortable talking to teachers, talk to just adults in general and say, hey, I need a little bit of help here.
Great advice. I think Karen was kind of in the same mindset. She posted this right as I was reading about this other mom's journey. And she says, you're my hero, Adalyn. My son is in 7th grade and likes to stay under the radar. What's something I, the mom, can say to him to encourage him to advocate for himself? So we talked about, starting small. Is there anything like talking directly to teens and that awkward phase of life that we could say to them to help encourage them to be okay with this?
I mean, you've heard this your whole life, but practice makes perfect. I hated that when my mom said it to me, but it kind of started clicking and I was like, oh, this is getting easier. And oh, this is not as awkward or not as terrifying, because my whole body would clench up and I would feel so stressed and I would shake and I would sweat when I would talk to my teachers about it. But when I would just talk to them, and I could relax and I could be okay. So yeah, practice makes perfect. Start with the small and simple things again and build up from there. Don't start with this massive presentation to give to your teachers. Start with the email. If it's an email and that's what you have to start with, start with that. If it's like a super short note saying, I have APD, I need to sit in front of the class and I'm going to say, huh, or what a lot, do it. And it will slowly build. It's slowly going to get easier.
Mm-hmm. And, I think it's really helpful for kids if we as parents are able to think about instances, there are things that we all need to ask for help with. It's possible you're asking your teenager to help you with your computer. And I know I would be, and so, you may say, every time I have to ask you to help me with my computer, I feel kind of silly, like I should know this, but I don't. I don't know everything. I can't do everything. And so sometimes I have to ask for help, and it's the same thing. But if we can give them an example of, we all do it. It's just different stuff.
Also, I feel like from my experience, when I've been in a classroom, and I mean, I've lived with this disorder for my entire life, I sometimes feel like, why don't I understand this yet? Like, why can't I just process the information fast enough? Why can't I be a normal kid? Why isn't this working for me? And I'll still be in class even to this day. And I'm like, I know I can't zone out because then I'll lose all the information and I'm going to have to go back later. But sometimes I'm like, I don't understand why my body just can't process it like a snap of a finger. And it's just, sometimes it's hard and it's annoying for myself even because I'm just not processing it fast enough and it bothers me so bad. But then I have to remember it's just taking me extra time. It's going to be fine.
We all have our things. I am never going to be in the WNBA because I'm 5'2". I mean, truly, that went out the window for me. So yeah, I really do think when we at the center, we talk to our kids, I usually use that example to say we all have our things, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so just having that humility, I think really does help. We have a couple more parents checking in. Aslam saying hi, hello. Jane saying always and thank you. Katie checking in from Ventura, California. Welcome. Bridget saying, it is so nice that you're doing this. Happy face. Marav, I hope I'm saying that right. Thank you for your insights. I had a really hard time at school. Now I know why. It's all clear now. So great. Crystal is saying, hi, our son is 6 and we're looking into this. Thank you. So you're bringing awareness. This is great.
I'm so happy. This makes me so happy. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Iana, excuse me. This is so informative and helpful. Thank you, Adalyn, for sharing your insights and experience. You are impressive in your strength, wisdom, and willingness to be a voice for so many. Kudos. Thank you. So you're inspiring people. It's happening. And this is a hot topic. Auditory processing has always been a real hot topic for our clientele, for our viewers, because it is a hidden disability and not a lot is known about it. So thank you for spreading awareness. Parents, continue to post your questions. Let us know if the answer to our question. How do you advocate for your child? And we'll check back in a little bit.
All right. Thank you, Lauren. So Adalyn, being with friends is a huge part of high school.
Mm-hmm.
How do you deal with social situations like parties and dances and big noisy events?
Yes, that is a very hot topic in APD. And, it comes up a lot, actually, literally every single day, I deal with all the time. I kind of like to call this like the Friday night prep or like the weekend prep, because everyone across the globe is working super hard throughout the week. They're trying to get everything in, everything good, and trying to finish off a million different things and projects. And then they get to the weekend and they're like, yes, it's finally the weekend. I can party all night. I can stay up. I can do whatever I want. No stress. The work is done. I am free. I'm a free human. Like, let's go party, everything. Right? But for me, it's like, I don't really want to go party because that takes a lot of energy. And I'm like, can I not go out tonight? So I kind of have to mentally prepare myself in advance. For example, if I know about a wedding I'm going to go to or a huge party or a dance or a school event that's going to have lots of noise and background noise for me to filter out, this is literally what I do every single time. This might sound kind of weird, but I would recommend trying it. You just close your eyes and just say, okay, I'm going to go to this event. I'm going to open the door. There's going to be 10 different conversations going on, tons of background noise, tons of people talking, lots of music blaring in my ears from every single direction, every single room. I'm not going to be able to participate in like half the conversations. I'm going to be listening a lot, like a lot. You're going to be trying to catch up, and you're just going to be trying to stay in the moment, but it's going to be hard. And if you do this, it's going to help you tremendously, because if you go in to the night having these high expectations of, I'm going to hear everything, and I'm going to be able to participate in every single conversation. I'm going to have lots of things to come into the conversation with. By the end of the night, you're going to feel so disappointed because you didn't talk at all. You barely could get in anything. You could barely do what you wanted to do that night. If you go into it with low expectations and say, I'm not going to be able to hear half the stuff, and I'm not going to be able to participate, and I'm going to have to ask lots of questions and go, wait, what? What's going on? Then you're going to be a lot happier when you're leaving. You're going to be able to say to yourself, I did my best, and I went into this knowing this was going to happen. Another thing that helps me is having a friend that knows about APD and what you struggle with exactly, because every person with APD has different symptoms and has different things that they struggle with. For example, my friend, little shout out, Darby, she has known about my APD for 4 years, and she's noticed in my conversations that I've had with her and other people, whenever we're in big situations that are loud and noisy, she will look at my face and she'll see that I have a completely blank face on me and I'm not processing anything. And in her mind, she'll go, oh, Adalyn is not processing, and I need to catch her up in the conversation so she can feel included and be able to participate.
That's a great friend.
Yes.
But that's really good. So you don't necessarily talk to everybody about it, but you have a friend who really knows and is sensitive and aware.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's great. You know, I remember in one of your posts, you talked about APD being kind of like being late. Do you remember that one?
Yeah. I love that post so much. That was such a fun one to write up.
Really insightful.
Thank you. So again, with the whole weekend and going to the party thing, I personally hate being late. I was raised to not be late ever. And so when I kind of use this analogy in my post about when you're late to a conversation or a party, like you've already missed out on the opening, like, welcome to the party and welcome. This is the agenda. This is what we're going to do. But when you're late to a conversation, it makes it incredibly hard to even catch up or know the subject, because you could be talking about cake or school or literally anything in the whole universe. You know, it's a huge range. And so you have to you have to be constantly there and focused in the conversation, because if you're late, then you already missed out on the agenda of the conversation or the topic of the conversation. And so it makes it harder and more rough. Also, during the conversation, I notice that I am late multiple times. When I say late, I mean I can't process it fast enough, and I can't. I need them in my mind. I want them to stop talking, and I want like time to freeze for like 5 seconds for me to like be able to process and say, oh, that was that detail. Oh, and this makes more sense now because I have this one single word in the sentence that makes everything come together. But sadly, I can't just freeze time, and I can't just freeze the conversation. I have to come back from being late to the conversation and ask lots of questions. So you're going to be late in conversations, and you're going to want them to stop, but you're going to have to piece together a lot of the information that you're given.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, wow, so many insights here. I so appreciate this. What other advice do you have for teens, just kind of generally?
You know, I think my advice would be, don't give up. Don't stop doing what you're doing. Mm-hmm. Keep advocating for yourself. Like we said, small to big. Keep asking questions. Yes, it might be awkward, but it's the only way you're going to succeed, guys. Mm-hmm. You got to ask those questions. Also, know you're not alone. There are millions of people out in the world today that have APD and that are struggling with the exact same problems on a daily basis in the exact same situations that you're struggling with every single day. So know that you're not alone, and that there's hope everywhere. And there are people and resources like Stowell Center that can help you with this. And you can get to a point where you don't have to struggle as much as you are right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you know, I just think that whole self-awareness and understanding of what you need. I mean, we all need to do that for ourselves and our particular strengths and weaknesses. And so just kind of building in that self-awareness and understanding of what we need to be successful, and then giving ourselves permission to do it, to ask. That's just an incredibly powerful thing.
Mm-hmm. I also think that especially if you're in middle school, or for that freshman that we were talking about earlier, or anyone else in even high school or middle school, find out how your body works and how your mind works and how much time you can have in a day to do homework and how much time you need for social time and how much time you need for sleep, because all of that is so crucial to being able to get through your day. Also, another thing is learn to take breaks. Learn that it's okay to take a break. I am horrible at this. I stretch my mind so far, and I never give myself breaks. It's the most unhealthy thing ever. I definitely need to work on that, but learn that even a 10-minute break, it's not procrastinating work. You've been working for an hour or however long it is, even 10 minutes. Take a 10-minute break. It's so crucial, and your mind literally cannot work if you keep pushing it to the max and you keep pushing and pushing and pushing. It's not going to work. You need to stop and take 10 minutes, go for a walk, get a drink of water, eat some food, go take a nap, do whatever it is you need to do. Find out what works for you and what works best for you. Because as soon as you find out that, it's like night and day. And you can function so much better because you know your body and you know how you work.
That is so true. And not just for people with APD or dyslexia or something that they're struggling with like that. I mean, that is literally how the brain works and how it learns.
Exactly.
So that is, really good advice for all of us. Well, Adalyn, I have just learned so much from you, and I've shared with other students and parents some of your ideas for building self-advocacy, as well as the kinds of accommodations and actions that can support a person with APD. So this has been a great learning experience for me. This is really important stuff. And there's one more step. And I want to share with you and with our viewers that auditory processing can be improved. We've been doing auditory training for the last 20 years with astounding results. And I've got to be honest here. I look at you, Adalyn, and I think you do not need to go off to college working this hard. I know you'll manage. You're amazing.
Thank you.
But it can be easier. I remember the boyfriend of one of our clinicians who was going off to medical school in Mexico, and he had an auditory processing problem. But of course, you would never have known it. He was smart and together like you. But he was really worried about exactly what you talked about earlier. He was afraid that he wouldn't get all the information in class and that he wouldn't be able to keep up with the work because he was so exhausted at the end of the day. So we got him going on an auditory training program, which he then continued to do when he went to medical school. And he emailed me a few weeks into the semester, and he was so happy because he was finding that he could pay attention and get the information in lectures, and he was keeping up with the work.
Wow. That's incredible.
It is.
Oh my gosh.
And we see that all the time. When the auditory system is stimulated and trained to tune in or pay attention to a full range of frequencies in sound, the student gets a clearer, crisper, more accurate message, which means that listening is going to take less effort. The person isn't going to expend excessive energy to listen and fill in the gaps. There is a very strong belief out there that if you have auditory processing disorder or dyslexia or learning disabilities, you just have to find ways around them. And thankfully, that is simply not true. This is backed up by neuroscience research and tons of clinical evidence over the last 40 years. Parents, if your child is struggling academically or socially, you need to look beneath the surface. Auditory processing could be at the root of the challenge, and auditory processing can change. This is LD Expert Live. Let's check back in with Lauren and our viewers before we wrap up.
Hello. Well, this is definitely resonating with our viewers. Let me see where to start. I mean, just so many people are resonating with everything you have to share, Adalyn. Laura chiming in, she says, Stowell Learning Center, I always advocate for my daughter. She's 10 and was diagnosed at age 7. I'm constantly fighting for support and services for her because it's such an invisible disability and she overcompensates and really works so hard that some don't even realize. Make sure your school has a workshop with the child's teachers regarding APD and teach them about it. I am fully honest to introduce myself to all the teachers at the beginning of the year. Yes. And a lot of times we've heard this from parents over the years that they have to educate the teachers a lot of times in regards to auditory processing disorder. It is not something, I'm a former teacher myself, it is not something that is taught in the teacher education programs at all. So that's great advice. Thank you, Laura. And she says, I'm so proud of you, Adalyn.
Thank you so
much. Crystal, this has been great info for me as a dyslexia therapist and diagnostician, these accommodations and what might work and what might not. And then we have some adults checking in on kind of their struggles. Marav, I feel so broken, especially socially. Thank you for being so clear and finding the words for it. I found peace with myself now that I understand more and how everything falls together.
I'm so glad. That makes me so happy.
Yeah. And then we have a parent of a current student. My 8-year-old daughter goes to Stowell in Thousand Oaks. I'm very new to learning about dyslexia. When you are describing auditory processing, I feel like you are describing me exactly. Struggling in school was a norm for me from elementary through college. Difficulty paying attention, hearing the teacher, but not understanding the material. And I was always behind. Distractions were always a problem for me, and it seems like auditory processing is still a struggle. Is this a hereditary problem? Let me get the rest of it. And are there resources for parents?
It can be hereditary. It isn't always. There are a lot of things that impact auditory processing, and so it's hard to say, but it certainly can be hereditary. Dyslexia can be hereditary. And here's the thing that I would say to adults is that changing the brain and addressing these issues are not age exclusive. It certainly makes life easier if you can address those underlying issues and develop the auditory processing or the underlying skills that are needed so that dyslexia doesn't have to be an issue for you, or whatever it is. It's certainly easier if you can do it younger in terms of you don't get so far behind and you don't have to struggle for so long. But all of the tools to develop these skills, work for any brain, any age. And so it's never too late. We work with adults and, see wonderful changes.
Absolutely. And since your daughter is already attending with us, she is probably on a sound therapy program. We also recommend that our parents get an account or share, if it's on an iPod, share the equipment and also do the sound therapy as well. And we've had parents see remarkable changes in themselves just by sharing the sound therapy with their child. So it's been great. Let's see. And then Barika is just commenting, thank you for sharing your insights and demonstrating how to advocate for yourself. So lots of thank yous for that, for bringing awareness to this. A lot of parents that are feeling heard and seen, and people feeling seen. Because you're sharing kind of what it's been like for you. Parents, if you want additional information, resources, support, we have our private Facebook group, Mom Squad. You can request to join. It is a private group. We want to keep it a closed group for parents of kids and teens with learning and attention challenges. We share resources. We have parents that post questions specifically about their kids or their struggles. We have a lot of support in that in Mom Squad, so you can request to join. I've also posted guides, which are kind of like files relating to different skills like dyslexia. We do have a guide on auditory processing, and in there I have posted a resource for parents, which is a list of potential accommodations that you can ask for your school. So request to join our mom squad. We'd be happy to have you. And I do want to let everybody know that we also have a parent support group that is meeting next week on May 20th. That is called Peace. And surprisingly enough, our topic is on auditory processing. We go through Jill's book At Wit's End, and we discuss different underlying skills on the learning skills continuum. And our May discussion is on auditory processing. So we're really going to dive in to all of the skills that are involved, what it looks like, what it feels like, and how it can be improved. So join us. That is Thursday, May 20th at 5 p.m. Pacific time. You do need to register in order to join the meeting. So go to stowellcenter.com/peace. And thank you to all our parents who participated. And thank you, Adalyn, for sharing your insights. This has been amazing.
Good. I'm so glad. I hope what I said helped, and I hope that you can get the resources that you need.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, everyone, for joining us live and connecting with us today. Adalyn, I just can't thank you enough for being willing to be vulnerable and vocal to, as you said, break the silence about APD and help other teens and parents. What message would you like to leave our audience with today?
Or
reiterate. You may have already said it, but say it again.
I want to reiterate that you are not alone. There are so many resources, and there are so many people that want to help you and have this exact diagnosis. There's lots of experiences out there with lots of stories to share, and keep advocating for yourself. Learn how to do that, because if you do, life will be 10 times easier, more than 10 times easier. It's going to be so much easier for you. Know that it's going to get better, and this is not the end, and there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and you're going to be okay. I've had to tell myself that so many times, but it's so worth it. Get help, keep advocating, asking those small questions, even if it's, wait, what, or can you repeat that again? It helps more than you know it does. Just keep asking questions and keep advocating for yourself.
Perfect. Adalyn, thank you for the way you show up in the world. You are proactive. You're already, as a high school junior, working hard to make life better for others. That is incredible.
Thank you. Trying my best.
Here is Adalyn's contact information. She is passionate about sharing knowledge about what it's like to live with APD and ways to make life easier. The insights and tips that she shares are so good. So encourage your teens to check out her posts. I encourage you to check out her posts on Instagram at advocate for APD. This is LD Expert Live, your place for answers and solutions for learning disabilities, dyslexia, and auditory and attention challenges. We're live every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific. Next Tuesday, Annette Mixon, the Regional Director of Futures Academy in the San Francisco Bay Area, will be here with us to talk about educating the whole child and keys to building more confident, connected, and self-directed learners. Be sure to join us next Tuesday at 10. Stowell Learning Centers are open for remote sessions and screenings. We're also seeing students on site with all of the COVID precautions. We work with children and adults doing targeted brain training to improve dyslexia, auditory processing, learning, and attention challenges. If you would like a free consultation for yourself or your child, give us a call or visit our website at stowellcenter.com. Thank you again, Adalyn. Thank you all for sharing, subscribing, joining us, commenting. We love that. And we'll see you next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific.